discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a no run-through review over the solo mode and all expansions to Feudum. All expansions that are out because they just came out with a new one on Kickstarter. So, wow, this is a very, very intense game. I'm sure if you've watched a lot of my top 10s or even the top 100, Feudum was mentioned quite a bit. Because this is just one of those games that is just stellar in almost every aspect. I think. I've done a run through for Feudum. I've done a how to play for Feudum, and I've done a discussion on Feudum. So you can go check all of that out to see how just the base game of Feudum plays, and what we all thought about it. But just to give you just a quick, synopsis of what I think this game is fantastic. I think there's so much going on that you have an avenue of just strategy, and you need to be very particular with your actions that you're going to do, because there's going to be times where you're going to be like, okay, well, I want to do this, and then you'll be going through your actions, you'll be like, crap, I am 1 shilling short. So that is completely through. So you have to be very understanding of the rules, but this is also one of those games that it seems like they didn't say no to any idea. There's just so many little things that you can easily forget. So much terminology. Not in like a keyword thing where it's like a living card game where you're like, I need to know 400 words. It's just they just used thematic phrasing for things like if you place an influence marker on a spot, you're the ruler, and then if you place a second one, you're a subject. But if there's already a ruler and a subject there of another player, and then you place one, you're a serf. Just things like that, and those all mean something. Just the way that the guilds work, and just go watch my discussion on that. But so for this one, I want to talk about what all the expansions bring to the table and what I think of them. So let's start with the smallest one, Squirrels and Conifers, which if you're looking behind me, all of these are like pretty big boxes. I was surprised that the Squirrels and Conifers came in such a small box, but this is about accurate for everything else. Like this is around the right size. Squirrels and Conifers. What does this add? Well, it actually changes how much food is available within the game. So in the base game, you have green cubes. That is your food, and that's your resource. For paying for your workers, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes you can use food for other things, but generally it's going to be, your little pawns that are on. You have to feed them at the end of each round. So what this does is it changes the green to a pink, and the pink is to represent squirrels throughout the land. So basically more food. And then anytime that a wood gets placed on the board, you add these little trees, these little conifer trees, which add squirrels, and then it just gives you more food throughout the game. I think this is an excellent little expansion. Would I say it's needed? I wouldn't say it's like a must. Like, I've played this game without it. It just makes food that much more important. But in this one, it gives you a little bit more leeway. It allows you to go pillage for more food. It's more accessible throughout the game. So what it'll actually do, it'll actually allow you to do more in the game, because if you can have more food, therefore you can have more pawns, therefore you can do more things, and do more things with the guild, conquer, not liberate, upgrade the areas from farms to towns, and so on and so forth. So it's actually nice, because there are times where it's like you only ever have 1 or 2 pawns out on the board because you can't afford a third one. The Squirrels and Conifers actually allow you to do that, which is nice, because what you want in Feudum is you want more things to be going on. You want all the guilds to be working together and constantly pushing and flowing and scoring a bunch of points. So the Squirrels and Conifers is a very nice one. I like it. I like it quite a bit. The next one I will talk about is the Alter Ego. This is a interesting one, the fact that it's sideways like this and not upright, or maybe, nope, it's sideways. So what this one does is this gives you more customization with your deck. So everyone has a deck of 11 cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep, so 11 cards, and everyone's is the same. Now what you're going to be doing with those throughout the game is obviously going to be different. What the alter ego allows you to do is change what cards you want to put in your deck, and you can change up to 6 of them. So some of them are, for example, like, let's see, the one that I changed out whenever I just played was the, there it is, the influence one. So influence is still the exact same as what it is, but the secondary ability, so for your reference, the, where is it? The secondary ability for influence is right there. If you're using your merchant pawn to influence a location ruled by an opponent's single marker, you can pay a shilling. So basically, normally to take over an area, you need to have your person there. You need to have 2 influence of markers of yours, and then you basically overthrow them, and then you take it. They become a serf, you become a ruler and a subject. In the base game, you can have this one, and instead of having to have 2, you can have 1, and you pay a shilling, so it's just 1 for 1, and then you take it over. In the alter ego, the influence one, the secondary ability is none of that, but instead of placing one of your influence markers on top, you can actually place it to the side to be a serf. And you might be like, well, how is that any better? Well, serfs are the only ones that can tend landscapes, and landscapes give you much more better options. One, it gets you points every epoch, but you also get goods and stuff like that. So just things like that, like the alter ego one. Let's see if I can find it. It is right there. It allows you to change the migrate action, the move action, tax, harvest, influence, and conquer. Another one that I thought was actually really neat that I also changed was the migrate one. The secondary ability for that one is you can actually, to be the guild master, you have to have the most influence in that. And if you ever tie with someone, it doesn't matter. You have to actually exceed whatever their total is to become the master. With the migrate action, it actually allows you to tie with them and take it over. So, but you need to have your alchemist out. So if you have an alchemist out and you go to tie someone, let's say they have a 1 point in the noble house, and you put a noble out, hey, great, you actually will take it over because you now tied them. So the alter ego one, it's just, it gives you more customization. Everyone can change their cards however they want it to be. This one is completely up to you on if you like it or not. I think the game is complex enough as it is. So, like, not only do the new people have to learn 11 cards, now they have to learn potentially 6 more, and then that will allow everyone else to have completely different decks, so it's harder for them to, it's harder for you to strategize on what they could potentially do, because if everyone has the same 11 cards, then you know, okay, here's what they could do, and you can strategize better versus, crap, what 6 did they take out? Or none. I mean, you don't have to do 6, you can do up to 6. But this one definitely gives you a lot of variety if you play this game a lot. Like if this is the only game you guys play and you're getting tired of the 6 or the 11 cards, then you can change it up and actually gives you a little bit more oomph. And personally, I liked it. I liked the cards that I changed out because it's like, well, you know, what sounds more interesting? What sounds more beneficial? Tying with someone? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. The farmer allows you, like the migrate one, not the migrate, the harvest. If you have a farmer out, you get to draw 2 more. The other one in the base game is you get to look at what you're taking instead of randomize it. So there's benefits to both, and it just depends on your play style. I think if you just want the variety, Alter Ego is a really good one to go for. The next one is going to be Seals and Sirens. Seals and Sirens was a really neat one well, so here's the thing about all these expansions. They're all little, which is really, really good, except for the Queen's Army, which I'll get to. But they're not like huge expansions. They're not game-breaking. They're just going to give you a little bit more. they come in these giant boxes and they make you think, wow, that's going to be a lot of content. It's really not. It's just more to show the amazing artwork of this game and the vibrant colors. But Seals and Sirens added Siren that you can get, which is just another monster and, does other things. Well, I know what it does. It helps attack and pillage and all that, and moves along the same way as a sea monster does. But it also adds these whirlpools tokens that are in select areas. They're always going to be in the same, but they're going to be in different order. And these are where the seals can be. So if you happen to end on a spot with a whirlpool, and you flip it, and it's in it's a siren, but it's in a color of something that you rule, then great. Then you have, you didn't fall to the siren, now you control her. But then it might be a seal. There's a seal that matches the color of a place that you rule. Then it's like, great. So then you actually successfully harpoon the seal, and it actually will nourish that pawn for 3 epochs. So if you nourish it at the beginning of the game, it'll last until Epoch 3. If you kill one at the end of Epoch 3, it'll last until the end of the game. These are really, really nice, because if you can actually go out and go on basically a seal hunt for your pawns, you will never have to worry about food. Well, but it won't be nearly as much of a problem as it is for the other people. If you don't control it, like for the seal, it gets away, and that's it. What happens? It didn't happen to me, but if you fail, it does not match the color of one of your ruled locations, oh yeah, you're basically locked there. That pawn is there until you migrate your pawn off the board, or until she gets conquered. And so basically how you get conquered is you just, pay for them with your influence. So, or not conquered, killed. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. So if she gets killed, then it's like, okay, great, now my pawn is free, so you'd have to go and save him. So it adds a little bit more. I really like the whirlpool aspect, because you never know what it's going to be, but you could potentially get lucky and not have to deal with food. So, funny enough, both of these dealt with food. What do I think of Seals and Sirens? I think it's neat. Like, it's not game breaking. It's not required. Out of all of them, I'd probably say this one's probably my least favorite. But it's really not that bad. Like I said, seals, you can potentially get seals, which, it is really nice, because for 3 epochs, that's quite a long time. And it's like, hey, nope, we're still eating on seal. And you can be lucky and go out and find all of them. Because they place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they place 6 of them, so it's probably 3 seals and then 3 sirens. So there's a little bit of risk reward to it, which isn't terrible. So that's Seals and Sirens. The next one we're going to talk about is Windmills and Catapults. This one I really like. I think this one's a really great expansion. This adds new tiles, like landscape tiles. It adds windmills and catapults. And 2 of them are radically different. So whenever you play a landscape in the game, the typical landscapes are silver mines, which get you shillings, sulfur mines get you sulfur, salt mines get you saltpeter, and orchards get you food. Now in this game, now they add windmills, and what windmills do is if you place it, then whenever you place it, the windmills blow goods from across the board to that spot, so you have a lot more control over what you're going to be getting. You can look around and be like, oh, okay, it's going to pull me this food and this saltpeter and this sulfur over there, and then you can decide if you want to grab it. So you just get a little bit more variety and a little bit more control over the goods. Okay, you don't have to run across the map to, it's like, oh, there's 1 wood on the board. You don't have to run all the way over there. You don't have to buy from the merchant. You can just play a landscape, or play the windmill landscape, and then have it blow there and collect it. And it'll replenish just like every other landscape tile. You cannot take off of other landscapes, so in a multiplayer game there probably won't be a lot of resources available, but you definitely will still have more control over what you're getting. So the windmills I thought was really cool and really handy. The catapults give you another option for conquering. So with catapults, You play it like a landscape, but whenever you go to conquer, if you have a catapult 2 spaces away, you actually put a saltpeter on it. It helps you. It adds 1 more attack from 2 spaces away, so it gives you way more ways to conquer neighboring areas. So if you're in the middle of a board and there's a catapult there, that's 2 spaces away that it can shoot over. So typically, you go to attack with, let's say you're going to attack someone's Feudum. Their defense is inherently 2 already on a Feudum. Well, is it? I can't remember right now. Yeah, okay, so Feudums have 2 defense. So if you go to attack with a pawn, it's like, okay, well, that's 1 attack. Then let's say you have a rebelling serf there, so that's 2 attacks. So you're tied for 2 and 2, but you have to exceed it. And it's like, oh, great, there's actually catapult nearby, and I'll use that saltpeter, so it's 3 to 2. And then now you have beaten it, and then you take it over. So it just gives you a lot more options on conquering. And instead of just, like I said, having to run around and try and fight. And whenever you go to conquer, typically you're going to be your main goal for a little bit. But at least with catapults, it just gives you that 1 extra thing, that 1 extra attack, which is probably more often than more than likely what you need is just the 1 extra attack. So Windmills and Catapults, I think, is fantastic. Probably my favorite out of these 4. So, and on a scale of 1 to 10 on these, Scrolls and Conifers, I will give a 7. I think having that extra food is really nice because not only is it just extra food that you can feed your people, it inadvertently allows you to do more because you can have more pawns out on the board. Alter Ego, I will give a 6.5. Just because it's not going to be for everyone, and the game's already very, very confusing and very heavy as a game anyway. Just to add in deck customization is going to be, it might be a little much for a lot of people, but I personally really liked it, but just generally, I'm not always going to want to play with Alter Ego. So, 6.5. Seals and Sirens, I think I'm going to give that one a 6, because I like the seals part. The siren I don't care too much for. It gives you another monster that you can, but the sea monster already kind of does that, and it just adds a little bit more risk than reward, because it's like, oh, I don't own a town, and this one's yellow, so I guess my pawn's stuck there until I go, kill it. It can pillage resources and all that, and I mean, it does the same thing as the sea monster does, except you're not. Well, now that I think about it, the sea monster, you still have to buy influence and spend 3 influence to get it. The siren, you can happen to just get. Now I said that, I'm going to give it a 6.5. Like, it's almost a free monster with a little bit of risk to it, and the reward, I think it evens out, actually. Since I didn't think about, you still have to pay for your influence markers to be able to get the sea monster. So, that's interesting. And then the seals are really nice because there's no detriment. If you don't control a area, then it just swims away. But the fact that it can feed your pawn for 3 epochs or the rest of the game is really good. So yeah, I think I will give it a 6.5. And then Windmills and Catapults, I'm gonna give it an 8. I think this one is a lot of fun, and I always like the idea of landscapes, and so with serfs, so it just gives you that much more control on the goods you're getting, and you might be able to screw some people out of their goods. Like you can be like, oh, I'm gonna take that one, and that one, and that one. That's gonna go over here, and I'm gonna have it. It's like, oh, wow, I really need a saltpeter, a sulfur, and a food. Oh, there's actually some on the board. Great, that's all gonna come to me, and I will take that. It's really nice. I like it a lot, and the catapults just gives you a lot more options for conquering. And conquering is, if you don't conquer in this game, granted you don't have to, actually, you never have to conquer, but you get a lot of points that way. If you want to control feudums, which if you control a feudum in a guild, you're more than likely going to hold that spot unless people want to take it from you. So going the feudum route and controlling one generates you a lot of points. So if everyone's going that route, then you're going to be competing for these guilds. Then you're, therefore, to control a feudum, you have to conquer, otherwise you're going to lose a bunch of points. So then you're going to, feudums and conquering And then just with catapults, gives you that much more option and range whenever you're fighting. So yeah, I really like the windmills and catapults. Now, the biggest expansion that this game has is the Queen's Army. This is the solo variant for the game. Actually, funny enough, it doesn't have to be solo. You can actually play against her with multiple people, which I thought was interesting. So, the Queen's Army as a solo variant. I should mark this with a caveat that I don't solo game a lot. There's just something about, like, if I'm playing a solo game, a solo board game anyway, I almost would prefer it being like, hey, beat your score kind of thing, which sounds boring inherently, but I get to play the game without having to deal with an automa. And here's my problem with automas. So the Queen's Army, the Queen has an automa deck. She actually has 5 of them. And they're all labeled 1 through 5, and then that's just in the order of the cards that she plays. So because each turn in the game, or each round in the game, you pick 4 to 5 cards that you're going to do that round. And then so it's like, I'm going to play my move, and then she'll draw a card from the 1. Then you play your migrate, and then she'll draw a card from the 2 deck, and so on and so forth. She could potentially play 5 cards as well. Or 2 in a row, just like you can. My problem with automas is, and I understand why they do this, but I just have a very hard time just letting go of the fact that they do a lot of stuff for free. And what I mean by that is like, not the moving or any of the actual actions, because especially in this game, you get to do a lot of stuff. Hey, if you want to move, you just move. You don't have to do anything special or stuff like that. But as a player, you have resource management. Like, to have all your pawns on the board, all 3 pawns, at the end of the round, you'd have to have 3 food to pay for them, otherwise they have to come off. If you need to move around the board, you need to spend the money to buy a vessel and then use the vessel to get around. You need to be able to pay for the influence markers to be able to pull them so you can control areas. The Queen doesn't do any of that. Like, she can move wherever she wants, regardless of restrictions. She doesn't need a vessel. She can just influence wherever she's at, so it's like she never has to get influence markers and put them out on the board. And the one thing that bugs me is she doesn't have to pay for her people. Thematic, because she's the queen, and you just assume she has all that, whereas we're whatever, just families. Oh, I think oh man, I feel like it was explained to us. We were something. Were we, like, exiled? I don't think we were exiled. Anyway, that's beside the point. But we, as players, have to manage all our goods. We have to manage our money. We have to, still compete with one another, and her. So it's like, I'll never be able to get all my people out, but she will always have that. Therefore, she'll have all her pawns out, and then she'll be able to influence all over the place. And so it just, in every automa game that I've played, it always feels like an uphill battle. Like, and it is. You're fighting a robot. Like, they just do this. They just do stuff, and then you're like, oh god. Like, for me to do as much as they do, it's gonna take me like 2 turns. And I should say this with a caveat. I beat her. Like, it took, and it was a hard-earned battle. I beat her by 12 points. So how you determine, how well you did. I actually think this is kind of neat. But if you're 10 to 19 points ahead of her, you become a wealthy vassal. So it's like, awesome. I became a wealthy vassal. If you're 30 points behind her, you are beheaded. Alright, neat. And if you're 30 points ahead of her, the queen surrenders her throne to you. So, and there's difficulty levels. Easy, you ignore sequential extra actions, and you start with the controlled behemoth. So, you actually start with the behemoth on the board. Normal, you just play regularly. Hard, the queen always takes a 5th action. And absurd, she takes a 5th action and migrates 1 pawn at the dawn of each epoch if possible. So, which just sounds insane. Because of that very, nature. Like, she doesn't have to worry about money, so her pawns will eventually always be on the board unless you fight them and take them off. which I had to do. I didn't even want to go a conquer route. My strategy actually for this game was to spread influence, travel a lot, so I go on the Epic Voyage track, and go for Royal Wit cards. So a lot of my points came from endgame, but I had to do a lot of shit to be able to get her off the guild tracks. I had to specifically look at it. It's like, okay, well, she has a lot of merchant pawns out just because it's random. Like the way her pawns come out is you just roll them and then they come out at certain areas. So I was like, well, she has one farmer. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go fight that farmer and take her off. So then she's not gonna be getting 5 points at the beginning of each epoch, and then I need to get my pawns out, and so I control these areas or these guilds. So I'm gonna get more. But there was a significant 12 points is not a lot. That was literally a come from behind victory because I was trailing her pretty much the entire game. So what do I think? That's just my Automa problem. What do I think about the actual solo variant? Despite all that, I still think it's pretty neat. I like how there's five decks, and I like how what'll happen is she'll draw a card. Oh, it's influence, and then she'll place an influence marker at each spot that she's at. If she can't do that, then she has basically this alternative actions. That it's like, okay, well, if she can't influence, then she's going to improve. So you just pick, it's like, okay, well, she's always going to do an outpost to a farm, so, well, there's no outpost, okay, then she'll go from farms to towns, and towns to feudums. If she can't ever do any of that, then her turn ends. But what's interesting is this, with all these expansions, I didn't even know Feudum had a story. Like, I always knew that there were things on the back of these, like at the back of the rulebook, that were just with the people. I just thought that was like their backstory on like, oh, well, this is King Daniel, and he's a king, and this is Queen Anal, and she sucks. Because you can easily tell she has resting bitch face. But no, there's actually a story. And the Queen's Army is like the conclusion to that story, and except with the expansion that's coming out, I guess. So it makes sense why it's the Queen's Army. I actually liked how there was a thematic reason. The behemoth starts out on the board. Spoilers, I guess, for the story. That's King Daniel. She turned him into that monster when she tried to make him out into gold. And so her pawns are going to be, every time they move and do stuff, they're going to be moving towards him and trying to conquer him and kill him. If they do kill him, she gets 11 points, that's kind of where it started to slide downhill for me once she killed him. Then she has this little horse pawn, which I really like the pawns. And then from then on, she moves to her horse, and once she gets to her horse, then the horse moves, and then her pawns basically follow, so it's like the army spreading, and then they start going after your pawns. And then eventually, because like it goes 1, 2, and then like the decks 3 and 4 are heavy conquer. Deck 3 is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conquer cards, and then deck 4 is that's a lot more, actually there's no conquer in there. There's a lot of improve. There's a lot of improve and moving. Only like 1 disperse, which would have been helpful. And then deck 5 is also just a variety of cards. So it's like eventually, yeah, because deck 3 is, well, this was a huge variety of cards. Apparently, I thought there was more of a theme, but yeah, there's more guild and stuff like that too. But yeah, so she's going to be moving around the board, influencing areas for free, which can benefit you if you move there too. If she influences 1 there and you move in and you double the influence, then you take it over. There's ways around it. But what I did like, even though it felt like an uphill battle, I never truly felt like it was impossible. I personally was like, well, I can still do my strategy, which I did. I had to alter it a little bit. But I was still able to pull my strategy and come out with a win, which was really nice. Because in most Automas, I feel like you're kind of reacting to everything that they're doing, and you never really get to actually implement your own strategy. I felt I was able to do that. Like, I was like, well, how can I personally beat her? I could try and tame the behemoth and then try and protect her and fight and do all that, or I could go for an endgame royal wit strategy and spread out and do my epic voyage, and I did that. So I thought it was really nice. There were times actually where I had to go out of my way, and I was like, I'm like, man, I really need to push her to get her to push, goods into the merchant. Well, you know what? There's her farmer, and I'm gonna move down there, sail on my ship, and go down there, and I'm gonna actually throw her a feast and do it myself and get points for that. So it probably felt the closest to a player that I have dealt with an automa. So, and how does endgame scoring work? Well, she scores endgame just like anyone else. Now she collects goods and money and seals and all that. She collects everything. She just doesn't start the game with any of them. And at the end of the game, she'll score points based off of some mandates that she gets. So she can get some royal wit cards, and she'll get a few points for that. But she'll never actually, complete them. Like, you never look and be like, oh, okay, did she complete these? She'll never do that. But then she'll also score a point for every 3 of everything she's collected. So all the goods she's collected, all the money she's collected, and everything, every 3 of those she'll get a point. So in my game, she got 7 points off of that. So I think at the end of her endgame scoring, I think she got 10 points total. Which is nice. I think that's how they balanced it. Because she can do a lot of things easier throughout the game than you can, she still doesn't get a whole lot of points for endgame scoring, whereas you can. Like, I got 14, 20, 23, I got 23 points just off my seals alone. And then I spread out, I got 11 points because I was in every area. So you make up for the fact that it's easier because you can actually complete the royal wits and you can actually use them. That'll give you a benefit. So I think they balanced it really well. And here's the kicker to Feudum. I've probably made this statement once or twice before that this is one of those games that either you have the same, either you have a group of friends that really like intense, thinky, heavy games with a lot of mechanics, a lot of gears where everything just flows, because everything makes sense in this game. It's a lot, but everything makes sense. But I would argue that this is a game you probably play with the same people, just because it's not so much a burden to bear as it is to teach. Like, this game is a beast to teach people. So, an advantage to this game is actually that if you can't find anyone to play it with, you can play it with yourself. So I was finally able to get this to the table after wanting to play it for a while and play with all the expansions. That's the great thing, is all these expansions can be played together, and it actually doesn't bog the game down. You would think it would because of how big the boxes are, but no, it's literal minuscule just adds. Hey, a little bit more food, or I mean, maybe Alter Ego is probably the biggest one that's more difficult, but still, they're all tiny. You don't have to add another section of a board or just this massive rule book that's okay, here's how the game is different now. They were really smart about all the expansions that they added. Queen's Army, you can play with everything, and it's still, it's still a great game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The other cool thing about the Queen's Army is that you don't have to play it by yourself. If you have maybe 2, 3 players, and you want a 4th one, you can actually just throw the Queen's Army in, and she's gonna be doing her own thing. And it's not you versus her. It's not like the 3 of you versus her. Everyone's still scoring individually, and there's still a winner at the end of the day. But she can just be there and be a hindrance and a nuisance to everyone. So it's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, almost. But yeah, so the Queen's Army, I think I'm gonna give an 8. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It was difficult it was still difficult on normal, but I think the benefits outweigh the detriments. I think they balanced it really, really well. So, that's it, everyone. Those are my thoughts on all the expansions to Feudum. Let me know what you think of them in the comments below. But other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.